Thank you very much for making a date on the marketplace. Let's now settle with the first story. And the Ghana Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, GATI, is recommending further investigations into the approach the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, uses in marketing crude oil from the TEN field. The price for TEN crude is lower than the estimated benchmark price, and also compared with that of Jubilee, the price difference is significant. Co-chair of the GHEITI, Dr. Steve Mantiao, spoke with Joy Business following the launch of his commodity trading pilot report.
The essence of this report really is to draw lessons and see how we could proceed with mainstreaming commodity trading into the EITI reporting. A number of issues have come up in this report, and they are quite revealing. We found in the report that somewhere around 2016, the price at which the TEN project crude was sold was almost consistent with the price of Jubilee. But in 2017, we see wide variations between the Jubilee achieved price and that of the TEN project achieved price. Ghanaians know and can recall that in recent times this has been a subject of controversy between the Ministry of Finance and GNPC, and into which PIAC has also waded. The recommendation of a commodity trading pilot is that the situation may require some further interrogation of the approach that GNPC is using in marketing its TEN project crude. And so it's quite instructive, it's informative. At PIAC, we are already in discussion with GNPC on this subject matter. In fact, GNPC has been very cooperative. They've been very proactive. They supplied a lot of documentation and all that. In the coming days, I think the engagement is going to deepen. I've had discussion with some of the officials of the Ministry of Finance so we can rope them in. The discussions may culminate in a technical roundtable to look at, in my view, the pricing strategy for the various crude oil that we produce in this country, and to settle on the best approach that will inure to our benefit.
The GHEITI also launched 2 other reports on the mining and oil and gas sectors, which revealed significant discrepancies between company payments and government receipts. Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng, who officially launched the reports, explained how the findings are crucial for the effective utilization of revenues accrued from the country's extractive sector.
At the heart of government's view of the extractive sector is a recognition that minerals and petroleum, they are exhaustible resources. So you benefit from them, you tap them, and they get finished. And so it's important that, one, the money we get from the extractive sector, we put it into more durable and sustainable economic ventures. It's critical for us as government to understand that, and we do understand that. But equally importantly, we must maximize the revenues we get from the entire value chain of the extractive sector. It's important that we do that so that we can invest it so future generations can come and benefit from our use of these resources. We definitely must maximize that. And you see, there's a reason government is very impressed about the fact that for the first time, we're also beginning to see a report on the trading. It is good to monitor, ensure that those who are required to make various payments make those payments, that government officials who are required to manage these resources are honest and prudent in the use of these resources. But it's also very important that at the trading end, where increasingly we're beginning to see there is opportunity for bad people to shortchange the country, it is important that we pay attention to those areas.
All right, so from one extractive commodity to another, and Communication Director at Cocoa Board, Noah Amenya, has discounted assertions that Ghana and Ivory Coast have agreed to announce the same farm price for their cocoa. Ahead of the announcement of the cocoa producer price, there was high expectations that the announcement will now see Ghana and the Ivory Coast dictate global producer prices as they join forces in determining a single farm price for a bag of cocoa. By speaking to Joy Business at the sidelines of the Cocoa Day event, Noah Amenya clarified the joint agreement was rather to see both countries announce their respective cocoa farm prices at the same time so as to check smuggling.
Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, as part of a strategic plan to take over the world cocoa industry, because we produce about 60%, we put in place certain things. And as part of that, we are announcing the cocoa price today in both countries. Each country has its price that it is offering because their systems are different. All we are doing is to try to look at the smuggling gap and close the gap so that people do not move cocoa from one country to the other. But the Cote d'Ivoire will announce their price today, and Ghana too is announcing its price today.
Finally, you have heard some of the concerns by cocoa farmers in the course of the event. Do you think these concerns to at least shore up the prices are justified?
Well, the concerns have been factored into the PPRC considerations, and what the Chief Executive sought to do was to explain the dynamics of the pricing, the international market scene to the farmers, and that they would have to appreciate that if the world price is going down at a certain point, it is obvious that you cannot continue to maintain the price at that level. If you have to maintain, then it means that you are getting support from another area to support the farmers. And Ghana had taken the decision that will continue to support the farmers, and therefore the price had been maintained. It is for farmers to now appreciate the efforts in the PEPs, which is the productivity enhancement programs, which will help them get more cocoa so that they can compensate for the fall in the world price. Even though theirs is not being affected, many of the farmers who have taken this thing up are getting more money from 1 acre of land than it was previously.
Let's move away from extractives now. And the global economy is strong and growing, but trade tensions and complacency are growing risks in the face of gathering economic storm clouds. That's a warning coming from IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde, who delivered the annual meeting speech ahead of the annual meetings in Bali on Monday to outline the key risks and challenges facing the global economy. She noted that although economic conditions are generally strong, that growth may have slowed from the latest projection of 3.9% globally last announced in July.
A year ago I said, "The sun is shining, please fix the roof." 6 months ago, I pointed to clouds of risk on the horizon. Well, it is not pouring, but there's a bit of a drizzle. Because today some of the risks have begun to materialize. And indeed, there are signs that growth has plateaued. It is becoming less synchronized, with fewer countries participating in the expansion. In July, we projected 3.9% global growth, both in 2018 and 2019. The outlook has since become a little bit less bright, as you will see from updated forecasts that will be released next week. Now, let me be clear. We are not seeing broader financial contagion so far. But we also know that conditions can change rapidly. If the current trade disputes were to escalate further, they could deliver a shock to a broader range of emerging and developing economies. Many advanced economies saw rising income inequality. So my key message today is that we need to manage the risks, step up reforms, and modernize the multilateral system. Or to put it in shipping terms, we need to steer the boat and not drift. In order to actually invest in people, in health, history shows that while it is tempting to sail alone, countries must resist the siren call of self-sufficiency. And as Greek legends or history tells us, being guided by siren is not necessarily the best way to get to destination. So going forward, what we need are smarter rules for trade that ensure that all can gain. We need to fix the system. Yes, it is needed. We need to fix the system, but not to destroy it.
You need to fix the system, but not to destroy it. And we're getting on the phone lines now and get clarity on this particular statement or assertions by Christine Lagarde as we join economists from data bank Courage Marty for the analysis. Good afternoon, Courage, and welcome to the marketplace.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me.
All right, so what kind of tensions does this, trade relations with America and China pose to the global economy that he's talking about?
Well, it's very significant. These are world powers when it comes to economic development, when it comes to global demand for goods and services and the movement of goods and services, as well as capital across borders. And so if these economies embark on, if you like, struggle for supremacy, the elephants would struggle or fight, and the grass, like the lower economies, will suffer the consequences. And it's very, very important that, like she said, we need to look at ways of fixing the system if one party is aggrieved with the balance of the system rather than destroying it.
Now, so when we look at what is going on in July, in July the economic growth rate for the entire world was slightly ahead as of now. What actually is causing this slow growth?
Your line is not so clear. So if I got you're asking the causes of the risk that we are seeing today.
Exactly.
Right. So now I think we should have seen the warning signs from 2016 when it appears the global economy was increasingly turning into an inward-looking approach. You can see that from the Brexit votes when the people thought that coming out of the European Union and channeling those contributions into their healthcare system would make them better off. Then later in the year, we saw the Americans voting for a strategy that would say to make America great again. And today what we are seeing is the imposition and reimposition of trade tariffs, the use of a stronger U.S. dollar as a financial weapon against other less and developing economies. We should have seen this sign coming. And now it appears that we are also making the mistake of overgeneralizing recovery in the U.S. economy as if this growth is evenly spread across the globe. A recovery in the U.S. economy very strong, but it may not be reflective of the global development. You can look at Asia. Okay. In emerging Asia, apart from emerging Asia, you look at Japan, China. These are weakening. You go to the Eurozone, it's quite uncertain to the extent that the European Central Bank is not sure of when they need to start removing quantitative easing and tapering. You go to the UK, Brexit uncertainty. So the growth momentum is quite soft. Even in sub-Saharan Africa, you look at South Africa, quite in recession. You look at Nigeria, they've recovered from recession, but the momentum is still weak. You look at Ghana, take off the oil sector and look at non-oil is not so strong. So you can look at the fact that we are overgeneralizing growth in the U.S. as if it is evenly spread. And these are the risk factors that we are not digging deep to unearth and look at counteracting policies.
All right, so Christine Lagarde tried to simplify this particular scenario by using the boat analysis. She is saying that when you are in the boat, you don't allow it to sway, but you steer the affairs of the boat. And also she used the roofing as to, when it rains and the roof is leaking, you need to fix it. So how do we fix it, especially in our economy here as developing countries?
Well, and this is one of the temptations. And she mentioned what is happening in the U.S., where the U.S. economy is recovering because of accommodative monetary policy over the years. It has helped the economy to recover. But the mistake they are making is that the fiscal policy regime is also embarking on a pro-cyclical fiscal policy. What you should expect is a counter-cyclical policy, a policy that moves against the cycle. In other words, when there are booms, you need a policy that accumulates buffers so that that boom will peak and you enter a recession, and then you can deploy that buffer to stimulate the economy again. I think this should be a lesson for us down here in Africa, specifically Ghana, where we should avoid policies that are pro-cyclical always, so that when the economy is booming, we need to seize the opportunity and mobilize, accumulate buffers. In times, difficult times as these, then the government and fiscal policy can release those buffers into the system to stimulate growth.
Now, finally, how do we get these superpowers, like China and the US, to actually cement their relationships for the global good?
Well, first of all, there is a line in Madame Lagarde's statement that in situations where you have this kind of tensions, we need to find those of like-minded approach to work within the same World Trade Organization framework. And once you get those with like-minded approach or outlook working together in terms of trade relationship, then you can be able to minimize the effect of such tensions. And of course, I think we need to get both parties to come back to the table and find a way of resolving this issue, to get them to realize that, see, at the end of the day, when you attack one particular end of the equation, you create an imbalance in the global economic system. And because today the global economy is more interconnected than a decade ago, one shot at one side of the globe would turn around and spill over back to you. I think we need to get these leaders to understand the interconnectedness of our economies and financial systems, and then find a way of working together rather than destroying the relationship that we have. We've moved towards protectionism and inward-looking approach. We need to move away from that approach very quickly, and this is what we need to let them know, that protectionism and inward-looking would not help in the long run.
All right, many thanks for your time. Courage Mate is an economist from DataBank. Now, the Institute of Statistical, Economic and Social Research, ISE, has launched the 2017 report on the state of the Ghanaian economy. Charles Aite was at the launch and now reports.
The Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research has issued the 2017 outlook on the economy. And the ingredient of this report is very simple. We get to understand the fact that the macroeconomic fundamentals in 2017 were much more on the higher side, and development related to management of the macroeconomic fundamentals were also perfectly maintained. But we get to speak to the head of statistics, who has been explaining to us what exactly is entailed in this report, and as well the way forward in terms of solutions to sustain this economic growth in the year ahead.
So for the 2017, we looked at practice of good governance. For us, we believe that we've gotten to a stage where our macro indicators are looking good, and it will continue looking good. But the issue is how are the positive indicators translated into economic development? And for us, we think good governance will make the difference. And here, the good governance, we are talking about transparency, rule of law, anti-corruption, and others. And we believe that if we tackle those issues, the development that we've been talking of, having in mind good indicators, will become a reality.
You talked about in your presentation issues related to the rebates and its potential of uplifting the manufacturing sector. We do know for a fact that the oil and gas industry has taken over the past few years, and you have this conviction that things could change.
No, the rebasing before oil and gas came into the economy. I think when oil and gas came to the economy, we've not done any rebasing. So oil and gas entered the GDP computation. For every item in the GDP, there's a weight on it. Okay, so this is an opportunity to correct the weight of oil and gas in the GDP vis-a-vis the other subsectors. So from now going, when the new rebased data come out, oil and gas will find its rightful position in industrial sector. its rightful position, because currently the impression is created that oil and gas is driving industry, which is not. It's one of the subsectors driving it. So hopefully after the rebasing, oil and gas will find its proper weight vis-a-vis the manufacturing, electricity, and other things in the GDP subsector, in the industry subsector.
Meanwhile, I put most of these concerns to the head of the Private Enterprise Foundation, PEF, in the person of Nanose Bonsu, who has been explaining to us some startling issues related to the economic management of the country and the best solutions thereof. Our first question to him was whether or not government was really interested in issues related to aid and grants and how best we could suffice the challenges in the years ahead. And according to him, even though these are interventions that government has currently introduced, there is still more room for improvement.
Development of the economy, you see, we had a growth in the GDP.
Now to one of our top stories, and officers from the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, have been positioned at the factories of Coca-Cola Bottling Company and Kazapreko Beverage Limited. The operation on Tuesday morning is part of measures by the Revenue Authority to ensure all manufacturing companies comply with the excise tax stamp policy. Ebenezer Sabote was with the team and has more.
We are here at the Coca-Cola Company, Bottling Company Limited, with some officials of the Ghana Revenue Authority trying to enforce the excise tax stamp policy. We know the policy has been in place since January this year, but some companies have failed to comply with it. So we are here to ensure that all products that leave this premise are being affixed with a tax stamp. We'll be hearing from the leader of the team who will be briefing us. They have an engagement with the company, management of the company, who has assured them that they are going to affix the tax stamp on the product. Initially, when we came in, we were told that there are some products that were not affixed with a tax stamp, and they were going to ensure that those products will not move out of the premises. So we'll be engaging him more to get insight on it. We are going to give you up-to-speed information about this operation today.
And just before we go, the Airbus A380 has touched down in Ghana for the first time to commemorate the official commissioning of the Terminal 3 expansion project. The Ghana Airport Company says the arrival of the world's largest plane, the world's largest passenger plane at the Kotoka International Airport, and has caused the local industry's preparedness to compete globally. Ghanaian pilot Captain Solomon Kwenu was in charge of the plane on the historic trip. My colleague Sheila Tamaklo now joins us via phone for some more. Sheila, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Now, what can you report?
Okay, this is not Sheila. This is Norman speaking to you, Abuaji. Abuaji, just as we told you this afternoon on the 12 midday news, the Airbus A380 has landed. And with me right now is Captain Kweno, who flew this Airbus to Ghana. And thank you very much for coming on the marketplace and joining us. I mean, tell me, how's the feeling, flying this particular plane to Ghana?
I don't have words to explain my excitement and joy. As a young kid, about 6 years old, I dreamt of becoming a pilot. Everything was against me to become a pilot. I was a bit determined to ensure that I become a pilot, but never dreamed that one day I'll be the first person to bring the biggest passenger aircraft to Accra. After we landed, my eyes were filled with tears, and I just couldn't control my emotions, and to see the welcome is just unbelievable.
Interestingly, I've seen most of your students, your former school, also here to welcome you. How's the feeling like seeing your guys?
Yeah, that has been amazing, the way they've mobilized the guys. And that shows how we were at school. We were all together. We worked together. We challenged each other to achieve. And from our school, we have great guys who are top in various departments and various...
All right, sincere apologies, and we lost the Captain Solomon Kwenu, who flew the Airbus 380 from Dubai to Ghana on that historic trip. Get more on this particular development in subsequent bulletins. My name is Emmanuel Apuachi. We are filming. That will be it for the marketplace. Have a good day.